That's a great F1 Halloween party, DC, definitely.
Hey, no problem, Jensen. I have to ask, the deathly face, the ridiculous hair, have you come as
I've come as Bernie.
Right.
And you, the grey skin, the soul sucking.
Yeah, I'm Bernie too, yeah.
Ah.
Oh, look, Max is here. Hello, chaps.
That's a great outfit, that is, Max. Who have you come as?
What? What's your Halloween costume meant to be? The all-over leather, the chains. Halloween costume? Oh, God, I'm at the wrong party. Bye.
Gareth Jones on Speed! Hello, welcome to Gareth Jones on Speed. I'm Gareth, he's Zog.
He's Richard.
Tremendously good start.
Sorry, I wasn't quite ready there.
I don't think I was ready.
Well, there was the pointing. The pointing
wheel.
was confusing. You were pointing at both of us at sort of the same time and at the window. It was all weird.
This is what happens when you make a promise, and we said that we would do a show within 2 hours of the race finishing in Abu Dhabi, so we're going to talk quick because we've got to get this show in quick and get it turned around quick.
Okay.
What do we think of the Yas Marina Circuit?
Wow. I mean, in a word, wow. It's quite astonishing.
Is wow a word or just a noise?
I think it's a word.
Yeah, I think it's a word. I think it's a word that you'd apply certainly to the way it looks on telly and the way that you get those extraordinary sort of crane shots and helicopter shots and things, particularly when the sun went down. All that glittering, twinkling stuff, and that massive hotel thing that sort of reminds me of Selfridges in Birmingham, but nice and in the deserts, and not in Birmingham. But and the way it was lit up, and I mean, it did look a little bit phallic from some angles. But
I was going to say
it's an impressive building, nonetheless.
It does kind of look like an enormous space-age sex toy crossed with sort of the heart of gold out of the TV series.
That's what Zog and I agreed on. Of all the sci-fi things, the Heart of Gold was the spacecraft in the TV. Well, the TV version of the Heart of Gold in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy looks remarkably like the Yas Hotel. Is this really the future of F1 circuits like this? Twilight races in the East? Are we watching the beginning of F1 Asia series?
Well, obviously the Twilight thing is not a gimmick, it's just a timing thing, isn't it, really?
Practical.
It's a happy corollary of that, because it does make it quite interesting in a way. Not sure the drivers would agree with that low sun and they've had to have those rip-off tints on the visors, didn't they? So that maybe they wouldn't like, but I think it adds to some sort of visual spectacle that offsets what I was going to say, the lack of wow sometimes on the track.
Yeah.
It's another modern circuit, isn't it, that's not sort of super overtakey, but it does have a tunnel out of the pits, for which I salute it.
Yeah, I mean, we may have been slightly distracted by, as you say, a lot of the superficial wow by there not being a bit more action on track. But that said, I mean, I love the battle in the last few laps between Button and Webber. Webber defending his position. He really knows how to defend a position, and he was doing it particularly well against Button, who really looked like he was going to take it.
Hats off to world champion Lord Jensen of Button, who knows how to also harry someone without being silly and sort of squirming all over the back of them, Mansell in Monaco style, with no hope of getting by. He was just doing a very measured thing, but the way he was drifting it through some of the corners was superb.
I mean, it's just a shame that we lost Lewis from the race so early on and didn't get the battle that we might otherwise have seen for the lead.
True.
So,
it struck me that this, talking about the racing on the circuit, the circuit didn't really add very much to the racing. It added to the spectacle, and it was the strategy of the teams that put Jensen on top of Webber in the closing 8 laps, which gave us that excitement. Otherwise, there wasn't a great deal going on. These interesting run-off areas which run underneath the Yas Hotel, underneath the grandstand, underneath my living room, seemingly here. And of all the races I think I've seen this year, I think I'd go to Belgium to watch the racing on the circuit. But to go and visit an event, I think I'd like to go and visit the Yas Marina Circuit. The idea of being able to sit in that section that they had, the stadium section where they've got a hairpin with a grandstand which sweeps right the way around it, to be right on top of the action like that, that's a good feeling.
And let's be honest.
I just want to get back to something you said a moment ago about it being a very practical kind of race.
Consideration.
I'm not so sure that's the case for a race that's. It's very convenient for us to be, sitting here middle of the afternoon watching the race and seeing this as a beautiful sunset and going into night time. It looks fantastic. We love watching it. If you live in Abu Dhabi, I'm not quite so sure that a race in the evening is necessarily so convenient. Well, it's a cooler time of the day, but as you say, the sun coming into your eyes, that's not a good thing. And lighting a circuit is not a trivial problem. They've got it well lit, but you use an awful lot of electricity to do that. That's pretty expensive. I know that Formula One isn't exactly a sport that's run on a budget, but but you're only going to have a couple of races that you run like that rather than running them at sort of middle of the day for you and being able to run them in daylight.
It was proper entertainment in that we had a good end to the race.
Yes.
A reasonable start to the race.
Yes, well, a lot of things seemed to happen in that first lap or two, and to the point where we were sitting there going, I think we need some replays now, please, because there seemed to be too much to try and take in at once. Yes.
But when they did do a replay, did you see what they did?
Yes. Yeah, right, okay.
Again, wow.
No, in case you didn't see this on your coverage, this is what we saw. At the end of the start, all the cars were sort of halfway around the first corner. We had a very high-angle shot, seemingly from a helicopter or a crane, of this event, and then the image froze. And then, almost seamlessly, as they zoomed in on that image, it transformed from being a real live actuality picture to being a CGI recreation of all the cars in the same position. And the thing that got me was all the drivers' heads bobbing away slightly in the car. Did you notice that?
No.
It's a bit worrying. When we had this sort of 3D graphic CGI of all the cars and we discussed their positions and who was where and who was doing what, at one point, all three of us went, I don't know what I'm watching anymore. Hey!
I really want to know how they did that.
Oh, that was the first of two particular, I don't know what I'm watching anymore. The whole thing with Al-Ghashari coming into the pits, going to the wrong pit garage, which we couldn't quite tell at that point. We were going, have they merged them? Are they saying what are they doing? Red Bull and Toro Rosso having one pit now. So, what a crashing error on his part. And
that's not supposed to happen in the race.
It's confusing when they go, get out, go away!
Look, can't you see that it's 3 shades of gold, ever so slightly different to the yellow that your team have got on the ends of their suits? Very similar, very hard. I feel for him.
Oh, but another driver that we absolutely must mention, Kobayashi.
Yes.
Looked interesting in the last race, but this time I think he's really, confirmed that interesting talent. Yeah.
And a very happy, smiley Japanese driver. I love happy, smiley Japanese drivers.
Well, yes. Takuma Sato is the benchmark.
Yeah, happy and smiley.
We heard on the TV coverage that he's coming back next year.
Apparently.
Possibility.
Yes. We'll see.
I don't know.
I would be thrilled to see him there. I would be surprised if he's there. I remember running a Sign Sato campaign many, many, many years ago. I really wanted him in the Jordan, and he got in there and was entertaining, Okay, disappointments in this race. The biggest disappointments in this race, Lewis's brake failure.
Yeah, that's a bit of a shame, wasn't it? Because it would have made the thing in front a bit more interesting. But
in the last 10 laps, even so. Well, mind you, we weren't disappointed by that. That was good.
And McLaren, they've had very good mechanical reliability throughout the season. It's pretty unusual for them to have...
Actually, everyone has really, haven't they? There's not been a real clunker of a breakdowny car out there this year, as far as I can remember. Everyone's been pretty...
Yeah, I think at one point Red Bull they're practically reusing engines they used 4 seasons ago or something like that due to penalties on engine numbers.
Well, for Vettel, they're the team that probably had the most problems with reliability.
They were using a Renault
with their engine, with the Renault engine.
I believe Vettel in that last race used a Renault 5 Campus engine. It was the only one they had left.
Quite talky. 8-valve push rods. It's a lost art, that the talky small engine.
Let's bring this meeting to order.
Guys, if we're going to get the British Grand Prix back to Silverstone, we've got to work harder.
Quite right.
We've got to look at what they did in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
We've got to think big.
Yeah, good.
During their race, it goes dark. So we'll hold ours at 5:30 in the morning. Halfway through, it'll go light.
Great idea.
They've got a ramp out of the pit lane. So we'll have an actual ramp that fires the cars into the air through a flaming hoop.
Like it. Fantastic.
And they've got a hotel that looks like a gentleman's area. So we'll have the world's biggest Little Chef Travelodge in the shape of a massive pair of boobs.
Super. Yeah, we could do that, or we could just have a protracted war of words with Bernie and then hold the race on an airfield that smells of chips.
Actually, I do like that idea more.
Well, it's more British, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Here. Motion passed.
The end of the F1 season! Oh, no! So, as the Yas Marina Circuit and its incumbent hotel returns to its previous work of being an orbital space station, it leaves the rest of us here on earth bereft of Formula One for the next 133 days, is it, they say?
Like that, yeah.
Okay. Has the season that we've just enjoyed been good enough to give us plenty to think about in the down season?
Zog, do you want to be the first to say yes? Or shall I say yes?
Well, I think I'll be the first to say yes. Thank you. Yes,
I also want to say yes.
Oh, yeah, emphatically. I mean, it's been a wonderfully exciting season from start to finish. We've had the drama of the Brawn story, if you like, and Button's success in that. But it's been a season where, actually, for most of it, you didn't know who was going to win. Vettel's challenge was very, very strong. Barrichello could easily have had it. Webber could have had it at one point. I think if this season has reminded us of one thing, it's that, if you had to pick just one guy, not counting any other factors, if you had to pick one guy to design your F1 car, it's got to be Adrian Newey, surely.
Good point. Good point.
I put it to the panel. I'm
not going to disagree with you, although I'd say that also, if you wanted someone to make the best of a bad lot, perhaps, then you'd get Ross Brawn in. The fixer, the equaliser.
Yeah, the equaliser.
It's a great piece, and if you do love F1 as we do, then go and have a look on the BBC website. I can't remember where this is, but somewhere on their Formula One website there is a piece about just what a mongrel that Brawn actually is, and how they had to saw 6 inches out of the chassis when they realised they were going to get the Merc engine, because it just wouldn't fit otherwise. And their source is quoted as saying, we wouldn't even do that to a sort of lashed up mule test car to try out bits for next season. That is brutal and crude, and it's just not the way that Formula One teams work. And they only had 3 chassis. Most people are running with about 7 or 8. They could only afford to do Buttons, Barrichellos and a spare, and that was it. Wow. It's an amazing thing, and the gearbox is all in the wrong place, and they lashed that car together, and that's why its pace dropped off, according to this piece, during the middle of the season, because as others were developing, they had so little scope to develop that car because they were coming from a position where it was really just a lash up. So do go and seek that piece out, because it'll explain it much better than I've just done. I
mean, the engine installation thing was something that I'd love to know more about, because I hadn't heard or read any detail about that side of getting the car together, but given where they started from, given how late that they knew what engine they were going to have in there, and given the problems that everyone has installing engines, that would have to have been a pretty big issue. And to be honest, I just assumed that they got really lucky, that the engine was about the right size, and sort of all the holes were more or less the right place, and they just sort of stuck it on.
Valuable tip there, though. If you find yourself in John Lewis or somewhere, and you're looking to buy a new sofa, and you're thinking, I'm not sure that'll fit through my front door, get Ross Brawn in. He'll get it through there.
So make it down the middle. There you go.
I'm kind of with Zog on the Adrian Newey thing, because whilst Adrian hadn't interpreted the rules for this season to allow this double-deck rear diffuser, he did very quickly reason out how to make it work and redesign the entire rear suspension of that Red Bull to allow that to happen, thereby creating an advantage. I'm inclined to believe that the Red Bulls are going to kick some ass next year as well, and I think they will kick better ass than the Brawns, because I think the Brawns did have, you hear Ross Brawn, he constantly says, we had a great helping hand from Honda in the last part of the last year, all the people who were still with us. They've lost half their staff in their Banbury offices these days, and so I think they may suffer a little bit from that. Whereas Red Bull have a good solid base. They've integrated the Adrian Newey mega brain into their system, and it works for them now, and I expect it to continue working. But I also think that the McLarens, and hopefully with Kimi Raikkonen in the other McLaren next year, I'd like that best of all, will be the team to beat next year as well, I think.
Yes, I was just going to say, because I was talking to someone on the phone the other day, and this season came up, and they said, what were your highlights then? And I mean, you start thinking about it.
Yeah.
All the stuff that went on, good and bad, because you've got bad stuff. You've got the Massa's accident. You've got the whole stuff
Flavio
with the Flav thing coming to light, but still being sort of part of this season and having a bit of an effect there. You've got the good things and the extraordinary things. I mean, apart from Brawn just bursting in at the start of the season and doing what no one thought was possible and absolutely walking it for the first few races, you've got that moment when Force India just had their time in the sun, which is great. I mean, if anything else,
Spa.
Yeah, I mean, also at a great venue, and a great track that we all love, and we're glad it's back, and all the rest of it. And then you've got this sort of minnow team giving a bloody nose to the people you'd expect to be doing well, who are having a torrid time, like Ferrari and McLaren. So, if nothing else, this season is a classic because it was not in any way predictable.
Yeah.
And maybe we should just point out, for anyone that hadn't been made aware of this fact, great little bit of trivia. I think it came from grandprix.com. Jenson Button won his championship in Brazil by finishing 5th at Interlagos, taking the title ahead of a Brazilian challenger, carrying number 22 in a Mercedes-powered car, and this is the second year this has happened to a British driver. Because last year, that's exactly what Lewis did. Finished 5th at Interlagos, etc., etc.
If this is a repeatable pattern, therefore, next year, the Toro Rossos will have Mercedes power, have number 22, and what British driver
will win at Interlagos after
beating
a last-minute
Massa.
change of driver to bring Anthony Davidson into... I don't know.
Well, that's it. That's what's going to happen next year in F1. You've been listening to Gareth Jones on Speed. He was Richard.
Bye-bye.
He was Zog.
Goodbye.
And I was Gareth. We'll leave you after this very short show with a short piece of music. We always play the national anthem of the world champion, and it gives me enormous pleasure to play the national anthem of a British champion this year. See ya.
God save our Jenson, Braun made our baton, F1 champion. Benz gave our bottom pace, allowed him to win the race, and put his beardy face on the podium. Who could have prophesied right before all our eyes, with the chassis so compromised, Jenson could win!
To send us an email, see pictures, get song lyrics, join our Facebook fan site or follow us on Twitter, go to garethjones.tv. Gareth Jones on Speed is made in London by Whiz Bang.